Maya Chen stood outside the glass tower, staring up at the building that seemed to touch the clouds. Sterling Industries. She'd heard about this place. Everyone had. It was one of those companies that made the news for big deals and even bigger profits. And today she was here for a job interview. She clutched her worn leather portfolio a little tighter. Inside was her resume, printed on regular paper because the fancy kind cost too much. Her blazer was the same one her mom had bought her 4 years ago, back when things were different. Back when life made sense. The sleeves were a bit short now, and there was a tiny stain near the pocket that she'd tried her best to hide. But it was all she had. Maya took a deep breath and walked through the revolving doors. The lobby was massive, all marble floors and modern art on the walls. People in expensive suits rushed past her, talking on their phones, carrying leather briefcases that probably cost more than her rent. She felt small, out of place. She walked up to the reception desk, her old flat squeaking slightly on the polished floor. "Hi, I'm here for an interview. Maya Chen. It should be for the administrative assistant position." The receptionist, a young woman with perfect makeup and a Bluetooth earpiece, barely looked up. She typed something on her computer, frowned, then typed some more. I'm showing you're scheduled, but let me call up to confirm which floor." Maya waited, feeling her heart pound. She needed this job. She'd been surviving on freelance work and odd jobs for months now, and her savings were almost gone. The administrative assistant position wasn't glamorous, but it was steady. It was safe. "Okay, they're ready for you," the receptionist said. "Take the elevator to the 42nd floor. Someone will meet you there, 42nd floor." Maya's stomach flipped. That seemed high for an assistant position. But maybe they conducted all their interviews up there. She didn't know how these big companies worked. The elevator ride felt like it lasted forever. When the doors finally opened, Maya stepped into a completely different world. This wasn't a regular office floor. The ceilings were higher here. The carpet was thicker. Everything screamed money and power. A woman in a crisp gray dress approached her. "You must be here for the interview. Follow me, please." Maya followed, her portfolio feeling heavier with each step. They walked past enormous windows with views of the entire city, past conference rooms with walls made of glass, past offices that looked bigger than her whole apartment. Something felt wrong. This didn't seem right for an entry-level position. Before she could say anything, the assistant stopped in front of massive wooden doors. Real wood, not the fake stuff. She knocked twice, then pushed them open. "Your next candidate is here, Mr. Sterling." Maya's blood went cold. Sterling. As in James Sterling, as in the CEO. There had been a mistake. A terrible, horrible mistake. She stepped into an office that was bigger than some restaurants she'd been to. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed the city stretched out below like a toy model. The furniture looked like it belonged in a museum. And there, behind a desk made of dark wood and glass, sat a man who barely looked old enough to run a company this size, but somehow looked like he owned the world. James Sterling didn't even glance up when she entered. He was scrolling through his phone, one hand holding it, the other tapping absently on his desk. He wore a suit that probably cost more than she'd made in the last 6 months. His dark hair was perfectly styled. His watch caught the light and nearly blinded her. Maya stood there, frozen, wanting to explain that there had been a mistake. But the assistant had already closed the door behind her. She was alone with the CEO of Sterling Industries, and he still hadn't looked at her. Finally, he glanced up. His eyes swept over her in about 2 seconds, and something changed in his expression. Not curiosity, not interest. Something closer to disappointment? Annoyance? "Is this a joke?" he said, his voice cold and flat. Maya felt her face grow hot. "I'm sorry, I think there's been a mistake. I'm here for the administrative assistant. Clearly there's been a mistake." He set his phone down, finally giving her his full attention. But she almost wished he hadn't. His gaze made her feel even smaller than the building had. "Who sent you up here?" "The receptionist downstairs," she said. "I'm in the middle of final interviews for Director of Corporate Strategy. Do you understand what that position entails?" Maya's mouth went dry. Director of Corporate Strategy. That was executive level. That was the kind of job that required years of experience, fancy degrees, connections. "No, sir, I'm not here for that." "There's been a mix-up." James Sterling leaned back in his chair, and somehow that made him look even more intimidating. "That much is obvious. Look, I don't know what happened downstairs, but you're clearly in the wrong place. This position requires someone with... He paused, his eyes flicking over her outdated blazer, her simple portfolio, her worn shoes, certain qualifications. The way he said it made Maya's cheeks burn with shame. He wasn't just talking about job qualifications. He was talking about her, about the way she looked, about the fact that she didn't belong in a place like this. His assistant poked her head back in. "Mr. Sterling, should I escort Ms. Chen to the correct floor?" "That won't be necessary," he said, his tone dismissive. Ms. Chen was just leaving. Maya wanted to disappear. She wanted the floor to open up and swallow her whole. This was humiliation beyond anything she'd experienced in the past 3 years. And that was saying something. "I'm so sorry for wasting your time," she managed to say, her voice barely above a whisper. She turned toward the door, her face burning, her eyes starting to sting with tears she refused to let fall. Not here, not in front of him. She could cry in the elevator. She could cry on the bus ride home. But not here. Then she saw it. In the corner of the massive office near the windows stood a piano. Not just any piano. A grand piano, old and beautiful with wood that had aged to a deep, rich color. The craftsmanship was unmistakable. The elegant curved legs. The way the sunlight hit the surface, Maya stopped walking. She knew that piano, or at least she knew what it was. "That's a 1920s Steinway," she said softly, almost to herself. For the first time since she'd entered, James Sterling looked surprised. "What?" Maya turned back to face him, forgetting for a moment how badly she wanted to run away. "The piano? It's a Steinway from the 1920s. Model M, if I'm not mistaken." She took a small step closer to it, drawn by something she couldn't quite explain. "My grandmother had one exactly like it. Same model, same year, probably." James Sterling stared at her, his expression unreadable. The silence stretched between them, heavy and uncomfortable. "I suppose you're going to tell me you play," he finally said, and his tone was mocking, almost cruel. Maya felt her throat tighten, the way he said it, like he was daring her to embarrass herself even more than she already had, like she was some kind of entertainment before security came to throw her out. "I do play," she said quietly. "I mean, I used to." James Sterling let out a short laugh that had no warmth in it. He stood up from his desk, walking around to lean against the front of it, arms crossed. "Of course you do. Let me guess, you took lessons when you were a kid? Played at a recital once?" Maya didn't answer. Her hands were shaking now, and she hid them behind her portfolio. "You know what?" He gestured toward the piano with a sweep of his hand, that mocking smile still on his face. "Go ahead. Play something. Before security escorts you out, you might as well give us a show." She should have left. Every logical part of her brain was screaming at her to just walk out that door and never look back. This man had already humiliated her. Why give him another chance? But something about that piano pulled at her. She hadn't touched one in over a year. Hadn't let herself get close to one. It hurt too much. Reminded her of too many things she'd lost. "I don't think..." she started. "What's wrong?" "I thought you said you played." His voice was sharp now, impatient. "Look, I have actual qualified candidates waiting. If you're going to waste more of my time, at least make it interesting." That did it. Something snapped inside Maya. She was tired of being looked down on. Tired of being dismissed. Tired of people like him thinking they knew everything about her just by looking at her clothes. "Fine," she said, and she was surprised by how steady her voice sounded. She walked to the piano, set her portfolio down on a nearby chair, and stood there for a moment. The instrument was beautiful up close. Someone had taken care of it. The keys were pristine, the wood polished. But there was a thin layer of dust on the bench. No one played this piano. It was just decoration, something expensive to show off. Maya sat down, and the moment her fingers touched the keys, something shifted inside her chest. It had been so long. 13 months, 2 weeks, and 3 days, if she was counting. Which she was. Always. She closed her eyes, took a breath, and began to play. The first notes of Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2 filled the office. Her fingers were stiff at first, uncertain. She hit a wrong note, then another. But then something took over. Muscle memory, soul memory, whatever you wanted to call it. Her hands remembered what her mind had tried to forget. The music built slowly, carefully, each note finding its place. This piece was hard. Really hard. Most professional pianists struggled with it. But Maya had played it at her Juilliard senior recital, Back when she thought she had a future in music. Back when she thought she knew what her life would look like. She'd played it for her mother the day before she got the diagnosis. Behind her, she heard movement. The office door opening. Footsteps. Voices whispering. But she didn't stop. Couldn't stop. The music was pouring out of her now. All the grief and anger and loss she'd been carrying for 3 years. Every missed opportunity. Every dream she'd buried. Every moment she'd sat in a hospital room instead of on a concert stage. Her fingers flew across the keys, and somewhere in the middle of the second movement, tears started rolling down her cheeks. She didn't wipe them away. She just kept playing. The piece demanded everything from her: technical precision and raw emotion, speed and delicacy, power and vulnerability, and she gave it everything she had. Every single piece of herself she'd been holding back. When she played the final chord, the silence that followed was so complete she could hear her own heartbeat. Then someone started clapping. Maya opened her eyes, quickly wiping her face with the back of her hand. She turned around and felt her stomach drop. The office was full of people. James Sterling's assistant stood by the door, her mouth hanging open. Behind her were at least 6 or 7 people in business suits, all staring at Maya like she'd just performed magic. One of them, an older man with gray hair, was actually crying. That was... Sterling's assistant started, but seemed unable to finish the sentence. Maya looked at James Sterling. He hadn't moved from where he'd been leaning against his desk, but his face had completely changed. The smugness was gone. The mockery was gone. He looked shocked. Actually, genuinely shocked. "Who are you?" he asked, and his voice was different now. Softer. Confused. Maya stood up from the piano bench, suddenly aware of how many people were staring at her. "I'm nobody. Just someone who used to play piano. I should go." "Wait." Sterling held up his hand. "That wasn't somebody who used to play. That was..." He ran his hand through his hair, messing up that perfect style. "That was professional level. Beyond professional. Where did you study?" Maya didn't want to answer. Didn't want to tell him anything. But everyone was looking at her, waiting, and she felt trapped. "Juilliard. Full scholarship." "Juilliard," he repeated, like he was testing the word. "And you're here interviewing for an administrative assistant position." "I need a job," Maya said simply. "Any job." One of the men in suits stepped forward. "That was extraordinary. I've been to concerts at Carnegie Hall that weren't that moving. Why aren't you performing?" "Because life doesn't always work out the way you plan," Maya said, and she heard the bitterness in her own voice. "Can I please go now?" "No." Sterling pushed off from his desk, walking closer. Not threatening, but intense, focused. "Not until you explain. Someone with your talent doesn't just give up and apply for entry-level office jobs. What happened?" Maya felt her defenses rising. "That's none of your business, maybe not. But 5 minutes ago you were nobody to me. Now you're the most interesting person I've met in years. So humor me." "You were going to have security throw me out," Maya reminded him, anger creeping into her voice. "You looked at me like I was dirt on your shoe. You mocked me, and now you want my life story?" That landed. She saw it hit him, saw something like shame cross his face. "Good. He should feel ashamed. You're right," he said quietly. "I was an ass. I judged you the second you walked in, and I was completely wrong." "I'm sorry." Maya hadn't expected that. The apology threw her off balance. "I lost everything 3 years ago," she found herself saying. "My mother got sick. Stage 4 cancer. I dropped out of Juilliard in my final year to take care of her. Spent everything I had, everything she had, on treatments. Worked 3 jobs just to keep us afloat. She died 6 months ago, and I've been trying to survive ever since." The room was silent again, but this silence felt different, heavy with understanding. "I haven't played piano in over a year," Maya continued. "I couldn't bring myself to. It hurt too much. Reminded me of everything I lost, my career, my dreams, her." She swallowed hard. Today was the first time since her funeral. Sterling's assistant had tears running down her face now. Several of the executives were looking away, clearly moved. "I also have a business degree," Maya added, because she was tired of being seen as just a failed musician. "Completed it online while taking care of my mom. Not from anywhere fancy, but it's real. I'm not just some pianist. I can do other things." James Sterling studied her for a long moment. Then he walked to his desk, grabbed a notepad, and wrote something down. He tore off the page and handed it to her. "That's my direct line. I want you to call me tomorrow morning at 9. Maya looked at the number but didn't take the paper. Why? Because I have an idea. A proposition. Something that might interest you. I don't need your pity, Maya said flatly. It's not pity. It's business. He pressed the paper into her hand. Call me, or don't, but I think you'll want to hear what I have to say. Maya took the paper, folded it, and put it in her pocket. She picked up her portfolio and walked toward the door. The crowd of executives parted to let her through. As she reached the doorway, she turned back. That piano. It's been sitting here collecting dust while you use it as furniture. If you're not going to play it, at least donate it to someone who will. Then she walked out, leaving a room full of stunned executives and one very confused CEO behind her. Maya didn't go straight home. She couldn't. Her hands were still shaking from playing, and her mind was racing too fast to sit on a bus with strangers. So she walked, block after block through the city, not really paying attention to where she was going. The piece of paper with James Sterling's number felt like it was burning a hole in her pocket. Part of her wanted to throw it away, forget this whole humiliating day ever happened. But another part of her, the part that had felt alive for the first time in months while playing that piano, kept wondering what he wanted. By the time she got home to her tiny studio apartment, it was getting dark. The place was barely bigger than Sterling's office bathroom, with a fold-out couch that served as her bed, a kitchen area that was just a hot plate and a mini fridge, and a bathroom so small you could barely turn around. But it was hers, and she'd fought hard to keep it. She made herself instant noodles for dinner because it was cheap and easy, and sat on her couch staring at her phone. Tomorrow morning at 9. Should she call? What could he possibly want from her? That night she barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw that piano, felt the keys under her fingers, heard the music filling that massive office, and she saw the look on Sterling's face, how it had changed from contempt to something else entirely. At 8:55 the next morning, Maya sat on her couch with her phone in her hand, Sterling's number pulled up on the screen. Her thumb hovered over the call button. Don't be stupid, she told herself. He's a billionaire CEO, you're nobody. This is probably some kind of joke, but at exactly 9 o'clock she pressed call. He answered on the second ring. Ms. Chen, I wasn't sure you'd call. I almost didn't, she admitted. I'm glad you did.
Can you come to my office today?
2 o'clock? I thought you wanted to tell me something over the phone. This conversation needs to happen in person. I promise it'll be worth your time. Maya hesitated. She had a shift at the coffee shop at 3. If she went to see him, she'd have to call in sick, and she couldn't afford to lose that job. Not until she had something else lined up. I'll be there, she said finally. Good. Come straight up to my office. I'll tell reception to expect you. He hung up before she could change her mind. Maya spent the next 4 hours alternating between nervousness and anger. She changed clothes 3 times, finally settling on the same blazer because it was still the most professional thing she owned. She practiced what she'd say if this turned out to be some kind of trap or joke. She thought about not going at all. But at 1:30 she got on the bus heading downtown. This time the receptionist was expecting her. Ms. Chen, yes. Go right up to the 42nd floor. Mr. Sterling is waiting. The elevator ride was just as nerve-wracking as yesterday, but for different reasons. When the doors opened, Sterling's assistant was there to greet her with a warm smile. It's good to see you again, she said, and she sounded like she meant it. That performance yesterday was incredible. I've been thinking about it all night. Thank you, Maya said quietly. The assistant led her to Sterling's office, knocked once, and opened the door. James Sterling was standing by the window, looking out at the city. He turned when they entered, and Maya noticed he looked tired, like maybe he hadn't slept much either. Ms. Chen, thank you for coming. He gestured to the sitting area near the piano, not his formal desk, 2 chairs facing each other across a coffee table. Less intimidating. Please sit. Maya sat, but she kept her back straight, her guard up. Sterling sat across from her, leaning forward with his hands clasped. I'm going to be direct with you. I spent most of last night thinking about what happened yesterday, and I've come to realize something. This company has lost its way. That wasn't what Maya expected to hear. She stayed quiet, waiting. Sterling Industries makes a lot of money, he continued. We're successful by every traditional measure, but we've stopped doing things that matter. We've stopped connecting with people. With communities. With anything real. He paused. My grandmother started this company 60 years ago. She believed businesses had a responsibility beyond profit. To give back. To create opportunities. Somewhere along the way we forgot that. What does this have to do with me? Maya asked. Everything. Sterling looked her straight in the eye. I want to create a new position. Director of Arts and Cultural Initiatives. Someone who would develop programs connecting what we do with music education for kids who don't have access to it. Who would use their story and their talent to inspire others. Who would remind people, including everyone in this building, that success isn't just about money. Maya felt her heart start to race. You want me to teach music? Not exactly. I want you to build something bigger. Partner with schools. Create scholarship programs. Organize concerts and events that actually mean something. And yes, perform when it makes sense. He pulled out a folder from the table and handed it to her. I had my team put together a preliminary proposal. Salary, benefits, budget for the programs. Take a look. Maya opened the folder with shaking hands. When she saw the salary number, she almost dropped it. It was more than she'd ever imagined making. More than she'd made even in her best year before everything fell apart. This is too much, she whispered. It's competitive for a director-level position. Actually, it's on the lower end. But I don't have experience in corporate work. I don't know anything about running programs like this. You have a business degree and you've managed to survive 3 years of hell while taking care of someone you loved, Sterling said. That takes more skill than most MBAs will ever have. And you have something none of my other directors have. Authenticity, passion, a real story that will connect with people. Maya looked up from the folder, suspicion creeping in. Why are you really doing this? Is it guilt? Because you feel bad about yesterday? Partially, he admitted, and she appreciated the honesty. I was cruel to you. Judged you based on nothing but appearance and assumptions. That's on me. But this isn't charity, Maya. Can I call you Maya? She nodded slowly. This is business. I've been looking for a way to expand our community outreach for months. We've interviewed dozens of people with impressive resumes and fancy credentials. And every single presentation has been boring corporate nonsense. You walked into my office by accident and reminded me in 5 minutes of playing piano what this company should actually be about. I don't know if I can do this, Maya said honestly. I've been barely surviving for so long I don't know if I remember how to do anything else. Then learn. I'll give you resources, support, a team. But Maya, and I need you to hear this. He leaned closer. You can't do this for me or for the company. You have to want it for yourself. If you take this job as some kind of favor or because you feel obligated, it won't work. You need to decide if you're ready to step back into the world again. Maya sat there, the folder heavy in her lap. A part of her wanted to grab this opportunity with both hands and never let go. But another part of her was terrified. What if she failed? What if she wasn't good enough? What if she took this chance and lost everything again? I need time to think, she said. How much time? A week, Sterling nodded. Fair enough. 1 week from today, same time. But Maya, I need to be honest with you about something else. What? That piano. The Steinway. It was my grandmother's. She died 2 years ago and left it to me. She was the one who taught me that music shows you who people really are, that it cuts through all the nonsense and reveals character. His voice got quieter. I'd forgotten that lesson until yesterday. So thank you. Maya stood up, clutching the folder. I'll give you my answer next week. That's all I can ask. She walked to the door, then stopped and turned back. Can I ask you something? Anything. If I had walked in here yesterday looking different, wearing expensive clothes, would you have treated me better? Sterling was quiet for a long moment. Probably yes. And that's something I need to fix about myself. Maya nodded. At least he was honest. She left the office with her mind spinning, the folder feeling like it weighed 1,000 pounds and a decision ahead of her that could change everything. Maya didn't tell anyone about the job offer. Not her roommate from college who still checked in on her. Not the manager at the coffee shop who'd been kind to her. Not anyone. She just kept going through her normal routine, working her shifts, paying her bills, trying to figure out what to do. But at night she'd pull out that folder and read through it again. The salary, the benefits, the proposed programs. Sterling's team had actually put real thought into this. It wasn't just some random idea he'd thrown together to make himself feel better. On the third day, she found herself standing outside a music store downtown. She hadn't been in one since before her mother got sick. Through the window, she could see rows of instruments, guitars hanging on walls, drum sets in the back, and in the center a beautiful black piano. She went inside. The store was quiet except for soft classical music playing through speakers. An elderly man behind the counter looked up and smiled. "Can I help you find something?" "Can I try the piano?" Maya asked, surprised by her own boldness. "Of course. That's what it's here for." Maya sat down at the instrument. It wasn't as nice as Sterling's Steinway, but it was well maintained. She placed her hands on the keys and started playing something simple. A piece by Debussy that her mother had loved, Clair de Lune. As she played, something inside her chest started to loosen, a knot she'd been carrying for so long she'd forgotten it was there. The music flowed out of her, gentle and sad and beautiful. When she finished, she realized she was crying again, but this time it felt different. Not like grief, like release. "You play beautifully," the old man said softly. "Thank you." Maya wiped her eyes. "I used to play more. I'm trying to figure out if I still can." "Seems to me you just answered that question." Maya left the store feeling lighter than she had in years, but she still wasn't sure about Sterling's offer. That night she did something she hadn't done since the funeral. She pulled out her mother's old photo albums. There were pictures of her as a little girl at her first recital, wearing a dress her mom had sewn by hand, pictures of her acceptance letter to Juilliard, her mother crying happy tears beside her. Pictures of performances, awards, moments of joy that felt like they belonged to a different person. And there was a letter. One her mother had written to her during those final weeks, but made her promise not to read until she was ready. Maya had kept it sealed for 6 months because she'd been too afraid of what it might say. Her hands trembled as she opened it. "My dearest Maya," it began in her mother's shaky handwriting. "If you're reading this, it means I'm gone. And I hope it also means you're finally ready to hear what I need to tell you. First, I am so proud of you, not because of your talent or your achievements, but because of your heart. You gave up everything to take care of me, and while I wish you hadn't had to, I will never forget that sacrifice. But here's what I need you to understand. I didn't raise you to spend your life being small. I didn't work 3 jobs to put you through music lessons so you could give up on your dreams. Yes, life knocked you down, it knocked us both down, but you're stronger than you think you are. When the right opportunity comes, and it will come, don't let fear stop you from taking it. Don't let what happened to me become an excuse to hide. Live big, my sweet girl. Make noise. Take up space. Play music so beautiful it makes people stop and remember what it means to be human. That's what you were meant to do. I love you forever. Mom." Maya read it 3 times, tears streaming down her face. Then she put the letter carefully back in its envelope and made her decision. The next morning, she called Sterling's office. "Not in a week. Now." "I want to accept the position," she told his assistant. "But I need to talk to Mr. Sterling first. There are conditions." 2 hours later, she was back in that office on the 42nd floor. Sterling stood up when she entered, looking surprised but pleased. "You're early," he said. "I read my mother's letter," Maya said, "the one she wrote before she died, and I realized something. I've been so focused on what I lost that I forgot I'm still here, still breathing, still able to do something that matters. So you'll take the job? On my terms." Maya sat down, and this time she didn't feel small or out of place. She felt clear, certain. "I want to accept your offer, but we need to change some things." Sterling raised an eyebrow but gestured for her to continue. "First, I want part of my salary to go into a scholarship fund, in my mother's name, for talented kids from low-income families who want to study music. Real support, not just tuition. Money for instruments, living expenses, everything they need. Done. What else? I want control over how the programs are run. I'll take input from your team, but the final decisions are mine. If I'm going to do this, I need to do it right, not just do what makes the company look good." Sterling nodded slowly. "That's fair. Anything else?" "Yes. I want you to admit what happened when we met, publicly. Not the specific details, but the fact that you judged someone unfairly and learned from it. If this company is really going to change its culture, it has to start from the top. People need to see that even the CEO can be wrong and grow from it. That one made Sterling pause. Maya could see him thinking, weighing the cost of public vulnerability against his pride. That's a big ask, he said finally. I know. But if you're not willing to do it, then this whole thing is just for show. Just another corporate initiative that sounds good on paper but doesn't actually change anything. Sterling stood up and walked to the window, hands in his pockets. Maya waited, her heart pounding. She'd just gambled everything. If he said no, she'd walk away from more money than she'd ever seen. But she'd also walk away with her integrity intact. Finally, he turned back to her. Okay. You're right. If I'm asking you to be authentic, I need to be authentic too. I'll do it. I'll share the story at our next company-wide meeting. And Maya? Yes? You're going to be great at this job. Not because of your talent, though that's impressive, but because you actually care about doing it right. Maya felt something shift in her chest. Hope, maybe, or purpose, or just the feeling of stepping back into herself after years of being lost. They spent the next hour going over details, start date, budget numbers, office space. Maya would have a team of 3 people to start, with room to grow. She'd have access to Sterling's network of contacts in the arts world. And most importantly, she'd have freedom to build something real. As Maya was leaving, Sterling stopped her at the door. That piano, the Steinway, I'm having it moved to your office. My grandmother would want someone to actually play it, not just look at it. Maya felt tears prick her eyes again. Thank you. That means more than you know. One more thing, Sterling said. In 3 months, we're hosting a gala for our biggest donors and partners. I'd like you to perform. Not because you have to, but because I think it would be a powerful way to launch this initiative, show people what we're really about now. Maya took a deep breath. 3 months. That would give her time to practice, to remember who she used to be and figure out who she was becoming. I'll do it, she said. But I get to choose what I play. Wouldn't have it any other way. Maya walked out of Sterling Industries that day as their new director of arts and cultural initiatives. She rode the elevator down 42 floors, walked through that marble lobby, and stepped out into the afternoon sun feeling like she could finally breathe again. She pulled out her phone and called her old roommate. Hey, it's me. I know this sounds crazy, but I need to tell you something. I just accepted a job that's going to change my life. And I think I'm finally ready for it. That night, she sat in her tiny apartment and started making lists. Schools to contact, programs to research, musicians to reach out to. There was so much work ahead of her, so many ways this could go wrong. But for the first time since her mother died, Maya felt like she was moving forward instead of just surviving. She looked at her mother's letter one more time, reading the last line. Live big, my sweet girl. I'm going to try, Mom, she whispered. I'm really going to try.